Hello. I'm going to hide that. Okay. So today we're going to look at a political cartoon, and political cartoons were and still are used today to express a reaction to an event or society, what's happening in society. And it's usually obviously political, and it's usually biased because the artist is drawing something from his or her opinion. So, what we're going to look at today is a political cartoon about an event in Congress where a man named Charles Sumner from Massachusetts, who was from the North, who believed that slavery was wrong, made a speech in Congress the day after the sack of Lawrence in Kansas. The speech was called The Crime Against Kansas. And in that speech, he condemned slavery. He condemned the border ruffians going into Kansas and voting fraudulently, and condemned the bloodshed. And he also made remarks about another senator, Andrew Butler. Well, Andrew Butler wasn't in Congress, but his cousin was. His name was Preston Brooks. And he was really upset about what Charles Sumner said about his cousin. So a couple days later, Preston Brooks comes in with his cane and literally beats Charles Sumner almost to death. He beats him on the head. He has multiple lacerations and cannot come back to Congress for, I think it said, 2 years. And it was pretty horrific. I can't even imagine. Well, maybe I can imagine senators literally beating someone else up, another senator in Congress, violently over an opinion. Albeit a major opinion on a major social issue. But what we're looking at here is the political cartoon, and I want you to observe it. Okay, so a lot of what history is observing things and then reflecting on them. And I want you to take a real close look at the drawing, it's pretty amazing. It's pretty cool. It's got a lot of detail in here. So we've got some gentlemen in the back. This guy's looking pretty upset. This guy is laughing. I'm not sure what he's thinking. He doesn't look too happy, I guess. This guy is holding this guy back. Maybe he's trying to help Charles Sumner. So this is Charles Sumner. What else? We have a writing desk and chair that's been turned over. This is Charles Sumner, and this is supposed to be Preston Brooks with his cane here. It looks like maybe Charles Sumner has some marks on his head, but he also has a quill and a piece of paper in his hand. And if you look real closely, it says Kansas on it. So this, I'm going to infer that this is the speech that he read a couple of days before, that this is why Preston Brooks is beating him. We've got ink spilling and papers flying, and it looks like we have the author's or the artist's name here. And I think his name is John Magee, if I said that correctly. But you also have to look at the caption. So a lot of the times there's going to be a caption on a political cartoon, or even sometimes the people in the cartoon will be speaking. And so that is something that you really need to be observant about. What else? This says Southern Chivalry, Argument versus Clubs. Now, Preston Brooks was from South Carolina, so he's from the South. And this word here is very important, chivalry. If you don't know what chivalry is, then this might not make sense to you. Okay? Chivalry, when I hear chivalry, I think of like knights in shining armor. And they are supposed to be a protector, a rescuer, someone who saves the damsel in distress. And they're supposed to be honorable. And I think what the artist is saying here is, look, this is Preston Brooks. He's from the South, and they're supposed to be chivalrous. Okay. So the argument is the crime against Kansas, and the club, I think, would be considered this thing here, the cane, actually. So the questions that are going to be asked of you is, do you think John Magee is from the North or the South? And based on the observations here, and that includes the caption, can you prove that? One or two more things I want to point out to you in the political cartoon is that we know, and they would have known, whoever was reading the newspaper, because of how huge the event was, this is Preston Brooks. However, you can't see his face. And I think that's on purpose, because the caption says Southern Chivalry. Okay, it doesn't say Preston Brooks argument versus clubs. It says Southern Chivalry. And because his arm is covering his face, I kind of get the impression that Magee is actually talking about not just Preston Brooks' reaction to being called names and not complimentary names, but rather it's really about the South. So, and anybody in the picture, because of his face being covered, it could have been anybody from the South. That's how they're kind of reacting to these situations when slavery is being talked about in Congress or even outside of Congress, like in Kansas. So yes, this is specifically about the caning of Charles Sumner, but more so symbolic of how the South is reacting to maybe this more leaning towards not having slavery, this idea. It's getting violent. Is that even a word? I don't know. It's getting more violent. Okay. One last thing that I want to point out that I only saw a couple years ago, because I've been looking at this for a really long time, is do you see this thing right here? Now, it's part of the back of the chair, but do you see where it's attached to the man here? It's part of the shadowing. Kind of looks like a reptilian tail to me. First, I was like, oh, it looks like an alligator tail. And then I looked up and I looked in his hair, and this right here looked like a horn to me. So if you're not quite sure what side the artist is on, that might give you a clue. Maybe I'm seeing things, but maybe I'm not. Now this looks like a reptile tail or some type of tail. And this guy has a horn by the way his hair is drawn. Okay, so anything with horns and a tail, it almost looks like the devil or a demon or something like that. So that might indicate also how the artist feels about not just Preston Brooks, but the South. Okay. And he's the one towering over Charles Sumner, who doesn't look like he's really fighting back. He is armed with a pen or a quill, writing a speech. And this is how they react, and this is how the South reacts. So this is what I would do in class. I would let the students observe it, and they would come up with things that they have seen, and then we dig in a little deeper. Hopefully that helped you a little bit, so that could help you answer the questions. I think there are 3 or 4 questions. Okay.